Section 1. You will hear an interviewer asking an interviewee called Lee to do a questionnaire on residency in the north. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. You will see that there is an example which has been done for you. On this occasion only, the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I was wondering if you could spare a few minutes to do a questionnaire on your residency here in the north. It won't take long.
No, that's fine.
Lovely. First of all, may I get some information about yourself?
Okay.
May I know your name and age?
My name's Lee, and I'm 19 years old now.
Lee says that he is 19 years old now, so 19 has been written in the space. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I was wondering if you could spare a few minutes to do a questionnaire on your residency here in the north. It won't take long.
No, that's fine.
Lovely. First of all, may I get some information about yourself?
Okay.
May I know your name and age?
My name's Lee, and I'm 19 years old now.
Great. And could I ask what your job is? Are you a student?
Actually, I'm going to continue my study in business management next month. But at the moment, I'm a salesman by profession.
Oh, right. And how long have you been living here in the north?
Well, I have been in this city since I was 3 years old, but my family and I had lived in the east for 7 years at first. Now I am 19, so I have spent about 9 years living here till now.
Great. Which part of the northern area do you live in?
I live in Spring Park. Have you heard of it?
Yes, of course. So, what about your accommodation? Do you live in a house or a flat or something similar?
I used to live with my family in a big house, and now I'm living in an apartment with 2 of my friends, who are my colleagues as well.
Oh, right. And one more question. What means of transport will you take when you need to go somewhere?
If it's not too far away, I'd prefer to go on foot or by bicycle. If there is a long way to go, I take the train or sometimes a cab. I rarely take buses because I think the most important things to keep in mind are time and comfort.
Great. Thanks.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Now, let's go to the second part of my questionnaire. I'd like you to tell me, how often do you dine out? Is it once a week or several times a year?
I'm afraid neither of those options agree with me. I don't often go out for dinner, maybe once a month. Every week just seems too often for me.
OK, then where do you usually go for recreation?
I often go to places that other people go to. I sometimes go clubbing after work. You know, there are some fantastic clubs nearby.
And if you do not have to work during the day, will you go for a show or something?
You know, there is a newly built theatre that opened last month in Spring Park, but I rarely go there because it's too expensive. I prefer to go to the cinema to see some of the latest movies.
Do you like doing sports? And what is your main form of exercise?
I like swimming and I go to the gym occasionally, but I spend most of my spare time sailing.
All right. Last question. Have you taken any part-time courses?
Yes, because I'm really keen on cartoons. I'm doing a Japanese course during the weekends, but I'm still a beginner.
Wow, what a special language. Most people I know would like to learn Spanish or Latin. You must be brilliant. Well, thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Bye.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to
Now
check
listen
your
carefully
answers.
and answer questions 11 to 14.
Welcome to our holiday special. Today I'll be talking about a new cycle route in this area called the Amden Way. It's well signposted so you can see exactly where to go. And it's an easy route with no steep hills. It's 35 kilometers long from Amden to Lowington and consists partly of cycle paths and partly roads. Let me outline the route briefly, starting at Amden Railway Station. The first part is a cycle path running eastwards, roughly parallel to the rail track. Almost immediately, the railway curves away and goes around the southern side of a little lake. But the cycle path takes the northern route around the lake. Keep your eyes open for the swans that nest there. The path then joins the road, and the next landmark is a group of massive rocks which tower over the countryside. You will see them to the east of the road just before the road goes under the railway. They are very impressive. Soon, you'll come to a fork in the road where you're going to leave the road and head off toward the river. But if you want to make a detour to Colleen Nature Reserve, go straight on instead of leaving the road here. Continuing along the cycle path, you'll reach the River Cleave. The cycle path follows the river southwards. After a bit, you'll see the Ashington China Factory, which closed in 1962. When you get there, there's a bridge over the river, and you carry on with Langton Forest to the south and farmland to the north. The route ends at Langton Village, where you'll find a railway station. So, you can either catch the train here or cycle back to Amden.
Before you hear the rest of the program, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
One point to remember when you're cycling on the Amden Way is that you should keep your eyes open for sheep which occasionally stray onto the cycle path from adjoining fields. So be careful to avoid accidents. The path is well constructed, so it's not affected by wet or muddy conditions. There might be the odd car or tractor when you're cycling on roads, but most traffic has been diverted to the main road that bypasses the whole area. Now, a bit more about some of the places you'll see. The starting point, Amden Station, was quite busy in the early 20th century with services to several major cities. But it was closed in the 1950s. And actually, a small company was set up to turn it into a sort of railway museum, maintaining it in the style of the 1950s. And the station was ready for trains to start using it again earlier this year. It's only used by a few local trains, though. There's a visitor center at the station which has a small exhibition about the history of railway transport all over the world, and a facility for hiring bikes if you don't have one of your own. There's also a small shop just across the road from the station that sells refreshments. As I said, you can cycle to Langton and return to Amden by train, or the other way around, because you can take your cycle on the train. There's no need to book. There's plenty of room and no extra charge. However, the service is very limited, and the trains between these two places don't run on weekdays. If you want to see the River Elm, there's a footpath from Amden Station, and you can safely leave your bike in the car park there. Leave yourself plenty of time, though. Going down's easy, but the climb up is very steep. So the walk back up to the top can take quite a while. But it's worth the effort. The scenery is wonderful. And the footpath runs right next to the river, down to a waterfall. Finally, if you'd like to do some more cycling in the area, there are lots of other cycle paths. We'll be talking on the radio about them, and you'll be able to get full details in the Saturday edition of the local paper. The National Cycle Network also has some details on their website, although I have to say they don't have many local ones yet. But that may change. So we'll be telling you more about.
That is the end of Section 2.
Section 3. You will hear two archaeology students called May and Thomas talking about the excavations they have been involved in. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25. Hi, Thomas. Did you have a good time in Turkey?
Hi, May. I had a great time. But I have to say, although I've always been keen on being an archaeologist, before I went on an excavation, I used to find some of the things we did in class totally mystifying.
Me too. Before I did my trip to Egypt, I was often irritated at not being able to picture exactly what the lecturers meant. They were always so excited about everything.
Yeah, we did a lot of practical stuff on the excavation, which I really needed. Was it harder than you expected?
Yes, mostly. I learned a lot more about the rules of archaeology. I was really taken aback by how precise you have to be with your data collection and recording. I took loads of photographs and they proved very useful, and the drawing went well too.
Yes, I think I'm quite good with the camera. I minded about the recording, though. I had no idea it would take so much time. Did you find anything particularly interesting when you were digging?
I did, actually. I had to dig a trench in part of the site. Interestingly, there weren't any bits of pottery there like you would expect to find, but I did get out some pieces of cloth and what looked like 1 or 2 silver beads. But our team leader said that they weren't. They were probably lead weights for weaving. What about you?
I didn't find anything myself, but quite a few of the other students did. What I enjoyed was trying to identify what crops the people who had once lived in the area had grown. They seemed to have had a much better diet than I expected. Fish and wheat as well as oats, honey, and fruit. Lots of different things.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it? And from measuring the bones in one of the sites, we found that the people were actually taller and had better teeth than the people who live in the area today.
Probably due to less carbohydrates. How were the people you had to work with? My team was great. They were made up of people my age from all over the world. It was good to work with them. Lots of fun, and they taught me a lot. It was tough for us all, though, getting up at dawn every day and being out until late afternoon.
Oh, that's true enough. We were all exhausted, and I'd like to have an international team next time. Mine was mainly made up of English and Americans. I enjoyed the field school, but everyone was much more experienced and older than I was. It was a bit scary. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
You know there's going to be a question about the excavation projects in our test next week. Should we just run through it for practice?
Good idea. Our team leader was very strict about following the right procedure. He used to say, never excavate anything if you're not sure it's worth excavating. Now, I think that when you've decided where to excavate, you go to the site hut and get whatever tools you need. Then clean the area so you know exactly how big it's going to be.
Right.
Okay, and you need to make sure you can remember what the site looks like before you begin digging.
I think photos are probably best for that, rather than drawings at this stage.
I agree. You then attach them to a record sheet, which you get from the team leader, remembering to put in the site code, unit number, and time. So much red tape. You seem to spend half the time marking rather than digging.
That's true. I think you then have to draw up a detailed plan of where you're digging and then measure the limits.
And this is all before you actually start digging. Okay, so far so good. Now you can start with the trowel, but first you have to get soil samples, and you keep them for further analysis. Anything that you don't think is useful, you leave in place on the site.
Yes, and if you make any finds, that is, any object you retrieve, including animal bone, stone, as well as artifacts, they should all be registered and labeled.
And then you put them in a plastic bag and return them to the site hut.
That's right. And remember to leave the tools and site hut as you would expect to find them.
Ha! Looks like we've learned something after all. That is the end of Section 3.
Section 4. You will hear part of a presentation on recent crocodile research in Australia. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Hello, everybody. I've just arrived back from my field trip, and Professor Martin has asked me to tell you about it today in our research forum. As many of you know already, my dissertation relates to crocodile behavior. My specialty is the saltwater crocodile, which is much larger than the freshwater crocodile. I've just come back from the Northern Territory, where I've been part of a groundbreaking study observing crocodile movements. It's not the only time crocodile movements have been followed, but this study is unique because we tracked crocodiles using a satellite. Up until now, studies like this one have only been able to track crocodile movements using radio. Not only was this method more stressful for the animal, which had to be caught several times, but it was also not very reliable, as the signal was often lost. So, you might be wondering why we chose to track crocodiles. Well, crocodile attacks on people and livestock are rare, but when they do happen, the government believes that the problem crocodile should be relocated rather than killed. But can we be sure that the crocodile won't simply return to the place where it came from? So, we designed a study to try to answer these questions. We wanted to establish, firstly, how far crocodiles can travel over a period of time. The second thing that we wanted to know was how easy is it for crocodiles to navigate? Could they find their own way home again if they were moved to another location? Of course, the biggest challenge when observing crocodiles is that they are very secretive animals. They stay well away from people if they can, which makes them really difficult to follow. I'll give you some information about the design of the study now. There were 3 crocodiles in our study, all from the Northern Territory, and measuring between 3 and 4.5 meters in length. The crocodiles were captured, measured and tagged, and then taken by helicopter to new locations up to 400 kilometers away from where they were found. We were then able to use the tracking data to monitor their movements. We used a specially designed transmitter, which we attached to each animal's head. The transmitter collected the data and relayed it back to us. The results of our study were quite astounding. After they were released, each crocodile remained in the release site for some weeks, making random movements around the site each day. But then they each swam home, traveling by the most direct route. These crocodiles showed remarkable navigational skills and stamina to swim such long voyages. So, what conclusions did we draw from this? Well, we proved that crocodiles are clearly capable of making marathon swims to find their way home. This meant that the current policy should be reconsidered. You might be wondering how the crocodiles managed to get home. We concluded that they used factors such as sight and smell, as well as their position to the sun, to point their way. It's a little-known fact that crocodiles are more closely related to birds than they are to any other reptile. So, we believe it's possible that they use the same system to negotiate long journeys. Now that the study has been completed.
That is the end of Section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers.